Okay, welcome to the video 7 of our Raspberry Pi project. This is the final video of this project. First thing I wanted to go through with you are the two HTML files that we have. So I've got them open up on my screen here. On my left hand side I've got the index.html, which is the default one that's loaded, and then I have the index-mouse.html. These files are very similar, but there's a couple key differences. I'm going to focus right now on the index.html, which is the touch one, because this is really what I mostly use. I'm using it either on my iPhone or my iPad. Really, I only use the mouse one when I'm actually doing changes to it or modifications and using my Mac. I'm going to show you the contents of this file. So I'll scroll down here in my editor and I'll show you. So when we load the page, it's really this is the part that's loading and showing us the initial web page that we have. So when I'll have it on my screen here, I'll just switch over to it. This is it, and this is really, if you look at the code here, you'll see some very similar, you'll see many of these things. So you'll see the touch control. In my case, I'm on the mouse control right now. You'll see the iframe here, which is loading the video right there. And then you've got the images for the forward, and reverse and all that. So that's the arrows, the stop sign, and then near the bottom here, you'll see the pan tilt buttons that we have on there as well. I'm going to go through one of these lines with you because this is really where I struggle a lot trying to figure this part out. So let's just use the forward here line and we'll walk through this. So what's taking place here is that it's showing an image. The image is the forward.png, which is the this up arrow right here, and then it's basically got these commands. On touch start, it's calling this subroutine called forward, and then on touch end, it's calling another subroutine called stop. And so basically, when you click or touch and hold, it's going to execute this forward subroutine. So let's just go up to that subroutine. It's actually in our JavaScript area. And so you see this function forward, that's what it's calling. And what it's using is this, and this is part of Ajax XML HTTP request. And so what happens is that it actually is using this XML HTTP.open to open our forward.cgi bin file. And so remember, that's in cgi-bin/forward.cgi. So those are the same commands that we're running from the command line. This XML HTTP open is executing. So as long as you have that you're pressing on the screen or you have your mouse pressed, that forward.cgi command will run. When you stop pressing or release the mouse button, it then goes into this on touch end, it does the stop event, right? So what is our stop event? So we go up to the top here again, and we'll have a function called stop. And it's basically doing a very similar thing. It's using the XML HTTP open, and it's opening the cgi-bin stop.cgi file. So again, the same file that we were using before. And that's, of course, will stop the motors. And so you can go through any of these, whether it's the bright Pi, moving the server pan tilts. The logic is very similar to that. Each one of these is doing exactly the same thing. The only difference is tilt and pan is that we're not doing a release, right? We're clicking that button and we want it to go to, say, 145 degrees. So it's really on click, it's executing the A145 function, and then that's it. There's no on release or anything like that, because it's just we're just calling that file, it moves it, and then that ends it. Mouse one is doing exactly the same thing. Except for it's, instead of on touch start, it's using on mouse down and mouse up commands. Now some of you, if you're HTML experts, especially HTML5, there's probably much more sophisticated ways we could have done this, as well as combining these two files into one and auto-sensing kind of what type of device we were using. The only other difference with the index.mouse -mouse one is that it's slightly different position on the screens, making the icons a little bit bigger and all that, so it looks better on a desktop versus on an iPad or iPhone. So that's really these two files. There's, all the rest of this is just formatting of the screen, the text, the color of the screen, color of the text, and all that. It's pretty straightforward, all the rest of it. I would highly recommend, if you're new to programming, that you take a look at this website that I found that I used quite a bit. And it's www.w3schools.com. It's got great tutorials on using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, SQL, all those things, and it has Ajax down here as well. I found the Ajax part a little bit weak, and I had to find another website that went into it much more deeper to understand what it was doing. But this is a great site because not only does it allow you to take you through tutorials, it then gives you screens to actually try things out and will help you troubleshoot what you're doing. So I would highly recommend, if you're new to programming, to spend quite a bit of time going through this. Okay, I wanted to go through with you. There are 5 LEDs that are on at any given time. There's 2 on the Raspberry Pi, there's the camera one, there's a Wi-Fi dongle, the L298N controller has one, and actually our PoE also has a little LED on it, on top of it as well. So I want to turn some of these off. I found out that we can actually turn 3 of the 5 that we have on the project. So to do that, sudo, we're going to nano edit the boot-config.txt file. And we're going to go down to the end of the file. We're going to add a couple commands in here. So the one to disable the camera LED is just disable underscore camera underscore LED equals 1, which basically means to turn it off. I'm just going to add a line feed there. So then the next one that we can turn off is that there's 2 LEDs on the Pi itself. One is an activity light and one is a power light. So to turn off the activity light, I'm just going to put a comment in here, disable activity light LED, and there's 2 commands that we need to do here. So the first one is dt parm equals activity underscore LED underscore trigger equal none. Second command we need to do to disable that one is again using the same dt parm. Actually, there's supposed to be an A in there, so let's make sure we get that in there. Equal ACT LED underscore active low equal off. Okay, so that's going to disable our activity light. Then the other one is the power light. So I'm just going to put a comment in there for that one too. Disable power LED, and very similar in DTPARAM equal power underscore LED underscore trigger equal none. DTPARM equal power underscore LED underscore active low equal off. Okay, so that's basically those 3 commands are going to disable the 3 LEDs. So I'm going to save this file. I'm going to now reboot. And when we come back, I'm going to switch over to my external video, and we're actually going to go through and give you a demo. Okay, as you can see, I've done some cable management here just to clean a few things up. I've still got a little bit of work to do to make it a little bit neater, but you can also tell that the LEDs on the Pi camera are now off, and the two LEDs on the Raspberry Pi itself are off. So I've still got obviously my Wi-Fi on there. I still have the motor controller LED, can't do much about that, and same with the power over Ethernet. So those are really, we're just stuck with those running as is. So as a final thing, let's try this all out and see how this works. So I'm going to bring in my iPad here because this is what I would typically use to control it. So you can see we've got the camera pointing up here. We've got our normal screen here. So we can move it forward, backwards, sideways, turn it. You can see with the treads that they turn very on a dime basically. So it's great. It's on hardwood right now, but it works even better on carpet. So we can turn on our light, of course. Then we've got our tilt and pan tilt down below, so we can of course move the camera around. We can look at the ceiling, we can look at the ground, we can go back to straight forward, we can go to the left, and we can go to the right and back to center. Okay, the last thing I wanted to cover with you before we end this video is how I'm accessing it from the internet. So there is several things I looked into. In the end, I have a whole bunch of home technology, and I wasn't keen on exposing them all directly through my firewall to the internet. So what I decided to do is I wanted a home VPN router that would allow me to VPN from my iPad, iPhone, or from my laptop to connect to my home network. So did a bunch of research. I ended up buying one of these Linksys LRT 214 business gigabit VPN router. I picked it for several reasons. One, it was gigabit, which was something I wanted. It did have some ports on the back that I could use as a switch port, and it came with the OpenVPN solution. It actually has several solutions. I use the OpenVPN for my iPhone and iPad, and then I use this EasyLink VPN for my actual laptop, although I pretty much use my iPhone and iPad for all my VPN. So what that allows me to do is I have all these things running at home, but to access them from anywhere, and I've been different continents and access over fairly low-grade networks, and actually I've been pretty impressed with using the robot project through that, and it's worked very well. So the OpenVPN client is really easy to set up on your iPad or iPhone. Worked really well for me. This router, I believe, is around $150, but it was well worth it because I just feel like I have a much more secure way of accessing my home components without exposing them to the internet. And this is just one of many devices that I can actually connect to and control. Brings us to the end of this video and really the end of this project. I do have some thoughts on how I could evolve it. I've been looking at web services to have a native app on my iPad and iPhone. Been doing some research, but really haven't gone anywhere with that. I've actually done a few other projects which I hope to make videos for here over the next few months. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing how you're using it. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible.